Heavenly Father, we ask for your blessings on this meeting. We ask for your blessings on each and every one here tonight despite the rain. Lord, this country needs your help and guidance. In some way, let us know what we can do to counteract all the hurtful words coming out of our opposition. Please bless President Trump and help him persevere in spite of all the socialist condemnation upon him. Keep him strong. We also ask you to keep our military folks that are away from home safe and out of harm's way. Keep giving them the strength they need to endure all their opposition they come up against while they are keeping our liberties safe. Father, we ask for your help keeping BCP going, as we know this is some of our only chance to make a difference. Touch the hearts of our members to help in whatever way they can. And finally, Lord, thank you for all you've given us. Thank you for your blessings and the endurance we have received from you. We want to move forward, and with your help we will. We want to make a difference, and with your help we will. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brother. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a great program for you. Before we get started, some BCP business. We're still looking for some locations to put 4x8 signs so we can promote BCP. We're going to put a banner on. So if you know of any, please let us know. We may have two, thanks to the courtesy of two members here. So we would certainly like to get a half a dozen if we could. So if you can help us with that, that would be great. Also, you probably noticed we have our 50-50 raffle going, so please participate in that. We also have the gun raffle. Folks, we're only selling 100 tickets. They're only $10. The featured firearm is the Ruger America, 9mm, 17 rounds. You either can win that or another gun of the same value or $400 cash. So please consider that. Folks, we're running these two fundraisers because we need to raise funds. We need to cover our expenses, as well as we'd like to do some promoting of BCP. Last year, 2018, BCP lost over $1,500. Obviously, that's something we cannot continue, so we are going to need help in that area. We're also looking for a location to hold our board meetings. We meet once a month on a Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30. The location that we had, they closed on Thursdays, and it's too much of an inconvenience for us to change our date. So if you know of any place that would hold 9 of us, that would be great. Forgive me, I need to jump around because I have so many little things here that need to be done. There's going to be a Second Amendment rally in Harrisburg on May 6th at the Capitol. It's going to be inside. If you go, if you carry, you must check in your weapon. No long guns permitted because they don't have lockers that can handle them. So if you do carry, you must check on them. Okay, I have several small announcements, small quotes and so forth I'd like to pass along. I just have too many papers here tonight. The first, when I read this, I want you to try to guess who might have said this. Today, we need a nation of Minutemen. citizens who are not only prepared to take up arms, but citizens who regard the preservation of freedom as a basic purpose of their daily life, and who are willing to conscientiously work and sacrifice for that freedom. The cause of liberty, the cause of America, cannot succeed with any lesser effort. Anybody want to take a guess at who that was? Lynn? Fantastic. President John F. Kennedy said this in 1961. Can you imagine, folks, if President Trump said that today? Wow. Another, I don't know who said this, but it certainly applies. We are advised to not judge all Muslims by the actions of a few lunatics. But we are encouraged to judge all gun owners by the actions of a few lunatics. Funny how that works. I'm sure most of you are aware of the Alabama mother who went to join ISIS, the fight against the United States to try to kill American men and women, great American men and women fighting over there. Well, she wants to come back. I want to read a tweet from Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. You all know who she is. This is a press release. We must block Trump from stopping the return of the historic, heroic Alabama mother from ISIS. In many ways, she is more of a hero than our veterans. Welcome home, sister. Can you imagine that, folks? She is heroic, and she is more of a hero than our veterans. Welcome home, sister. Another one. Maxine Waters. There's not too much that she can say that really will surprise me. Maybe this one. But what I'm going to read to you, very short. She said this on national television. The next Supreme Court justice should be fill in the blank. An illegal immigrant. Folks, right here. The next Supreme Court justice should be an illegal immigrant. And she said this on nationwide television. I don't know. Several more. This is Chuck Schumer. Folks, try to be quiet back here. Chuck Schumer. Time and time again, we find progressive laws getting struck down. And it's always the ones the Constitution is against. These right-wing judges just don't think for themselves. They just do whatever the Constitution says. And it's time for that to end. Chuck Schumer. Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas. We need judges to be advocates of progressive laws, not people who will bow to the whims of the Constitution, putting its extreme values of freedom of speech and freedom of religion against our agenda. Now, what she says here, you really have to take that whole thing in. But I never knew that freedom of speech and freedom of religion were extreme values. But according to her, it is. One final. Cory Booker. We're sick and tired of the Constitution sitting in the National Archives, manipulating everything we do. Wow, that's a shame. Too many papers. Actually, folks, there's times when I read those things, watch them and so forth, that I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Maybe that would be better. I'm not in Twilight Zone. Folks, this is real. We are fighting a war. We are fighting many battles on many fronts, and we are losing. I know you don't want to hear that, but we are losing. We need to increase what we're doing. We need to step it up a notch. We need to improve our game, step up our game. Okay, that's my soapbox.
Tim,
Yes.
what should we be doing to change our game?
Well, find candidates, first of all, that you support, and do everything you can to get them elected to office. Anything you see that you don't agree with, there's quite a lot, you need to write to your congressman or any other congressman. You can call, letters and so forth. We need to really get after them, let them know we're not sitting back. We just had an election, and we lost, in my opinion, we lost the House being a Republican because of too many people, not anyone in this room here, sat this election out. That is going to hurt us for many years to come. So you just got to get active in whatever you do, whether it be school board, whatever, but we're talking, statewide and national wise. Okay. Okay. Folks, yes, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we have a gun raffle tickets. We did not have them when you got here. We had to send Judy Pelka to get them from another location. So we do have them. Those of you that wanted to buy them, make your way back there at some point quietly. You'll be able to purchase tickets or afterwards. Folks, we encourage all our members to give us suggestions of what should be done, what we can improve, criticism, whatever it might be. And we had one of our members, Sally Graff, give us a suggestion. She's a longtime member, along with her husband. Where's your husband? Oh, shucks. Well, anyway, she gave us a suggestion, and actually, she is going to be putting her suggestion to work right here tonight. It's a 2 to 3 minute, I'm not sure what we're going to call it, maybe a human interest. I'll let her title it if she wants. Now, this is the first time, I believe, that Judy's ever spoken on a stage. So please, folks, let's be easy on her. Let's be gentle. Let's all welcome Sally Graff. Sally, please come on up. And yes, Sally, you can stand in between here.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, I think we all need to hear something good, and that there are great Americans out here besides us in these groups. So this is what I found. On Friday, December 14th, 75-year-old Barbara Dixon drove 3 hours from Middletown, Delaware to Ephrata. Her destination was VFW Post 3376, and her goal was to be reunited with her brother, Ronald, who had died and was cremated in 1996. The cremation remains were discovered on November 19th by Linux resident and GSM roofing employer Shane Hanna while on job site in Newcastle, Delaware. Hanna and his co-workers took a peek at 4 industrial dumpsters that they would use later in the day. It was the first thing in the morning at an old Pathmark site, explained Hanna. It was just something that caught my eye. I picked up the brass box, and it was heavier than you would expect. The wooden box was a few feet away from it. That wooden cover is 6 inches tall and 7 by 9 inches across. It also had a plate with the U.S. Navy insignia and USS Saratoga imprinted on it. After putting it in my truck, I called my dad during the day, continued Hanna. He is a veteran and lives in Akron. He said to bring it home. 2 days later, at the suggestion of his father and some online research by his sister, Hanna came to the VFW. He dropped off the cremains with one of our messengers, said the VFW quartermaster, Amy McKenzie. I got in touch with the funeral home the week after Thanksgiving. It took several times to explain what I had. The clerk I spoke to said she would do her best to go through the archives and see if she could put me in touch with a family member. And that led her to Barbara Dixon. When the lady called, she asked if I have a brother, Ronald Lee Pruitt, who died in 1996, described Dixon, from the second floor of the VFW. When I said yes, she said, then I have the right Barbara Dixon. She said, I have another strange thing to tell you. Your brother's, and this is hard for me, your brother's ashes were found, and they are in Lancaster County. Ronald Pruitt was born in 1955 and was in basic training in Michigan in 1973. After 3 years in the Navy, he moved home to help care for his recently widowed mother. He died at the age of 41. To my surprise, the next thing I knew, I was receiving a call from Barbara at Mackenzie. The funeral home reached out to her, and she called me. I can't believe they found him in a dumpster. I was shocked, said Dixon. When my brother was cremated, his ashes went to my older sister. Then my sister died in 2000. My brother-in-law remarried, and we didn't hear from him again. Dixon is still missing additional pieces in the case, but she plans to continue searching to find out and fill in the holes of her brother. Doesn't get any better than that, folks. So there are people out there that will go the extra mile to make things right. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. You seem like a pro. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, folks, up next is Helen McMinn, one of our board members. Helen?
Good evening, my Patriot friends. I am reporting on the pro-life issue. So I'm going to start out with a question. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Are we on the wrong side of history? That's the question. The following is why I pose this question. In a culture of death we are now experiencing in our nation and in our world, we ourselves have judged those who came before us. We shrink in shock that people owned other people as slaves, murdered Jews in ovens, killed the elderly and mentally disabled, and 10,000 other evils that we've seen throughout the ages. You're probably thinking, I would have stood up back then. But 100 years from now, the question will be asked about today's climate, which is the culture of death. Why did they hate babies so much? This year in the United States, there will be more casualties from abortion than all the casualties in all of World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and the global war on terrorism put together. Since 1973, we have taken the lives of over 60 million babies, and each year we add another million, one every 20 seconds here in this country. And worldwide, over 40 million babies are lost each year to abortion. Take that in, folks. We judge the deeds of Hitler and Mao and others today as vile and sinister. And yet today our body count looks eerily similar to Hitler's concentration camps. In 100 years from now, our grandchildren will hang their heads in shame that we stood by and did nothing while millions of our brothers and sisters in the womb were murdered because of our consent and our inaction. Our voices matter, folks, in the public forum, and that is why I'm urging you to seriously consider and then committing yourselves to attend our 9th annual March for Life on May 5th. We will be having a rally at 2 p.m. at the Berks Catholic High School Auditorium in Reading with guest speakers, and then following at 3 o'clock, the March for Life through Reading. We will march from West Reading into Reading, and we will bring awareness to our community of this crimson Holocaust. And it is a Holocaust. We will stop for prayer at Planned Parenthood, where 1,000 babies a year are murdered. And then buses will pick us back up there to transport us back to Berks Catholic. You certainly, I'm sure you have, seen and read how New York cheered the passage of their new abortion law till birth. In fact, this evil law permits a mother to make a decision even up to the point she is dilated. And this bill gives no protection to the baby if born alive. Following New York's lead, we now have Rhode Island, Virginia, New Mexico, Illinois, and Vermont all following suit. One video I watched was of an abortion doctor being asked, "What would you do if a baby is born alive after one of your abortions?" Without stopping hesitation, the response was, "I would break its neck." Dear God, Patriots, this is infanticide, and our government is condoning it enthusiastically. Our Senate even failed to pass the Born Alive Protection Act. And guess who voted with the dimwits? Toomey. We need to take this fight to the streets on May 5th, and we need to stand as witnesses to the truth that all life is sacred. We must be the voice of the voiceless, because the only voice they have is ours. In closing, take note, Patriots, take note. The slippery slope of these horrific actions have now caused bills to be passed just recently in both Delaware and Oregon, allowing euthanasia for the mentally ill. So, in closing, I'm going to ask you the same question. Are we on the wrong side of history? Yes. Amen.
Thank you so much for that very passionate presentation, Helen, and appeal, actually. Helen, when is the march again? What day is that?
It's a Sunday, 2 o'clock, May 5th.
Sunday,
Sunday, 2 o'clock, May 5th. And the auditorium there that Berks gives us for free is perfect. And we're going to have some wonderful videos and speakers.
Thank you, Helen. Before I bring Carol up, last month I made an error, so I want to correct that. I want to let you know we have with us tonight the Eastern Pennsylvania Regional Militia of Berks. They're in the back. Talk with them. I mischaracterized them last month. I apologize. So if you want to spend a few minutes and speak with them. Okay, up next is Carol Gardecki. She will give us our Constitution minute. And folks, it's Carol's birthday. What do you say, folks? Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Carol. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
Thanks, everybody. That's very nice. Tonight I'm going to talk about the Electoral College. I can feel the groans already. The Electoral College, first of all, there's a lot of talk right now about getting rid of it. Let's just vote the president in by the popular vote. I'll bet even some of you out there think, yeah, why don't we just do that? That's so simple. Okay, first I'm going to tell you how the Electoral College works, and it is not hard to understand. You just haven't been told the correct way. And after I tell you that, then I'm going to tell you why we don't want to get away from it. Okay, when we're going back to the Constitutional Convention,
when our forefathers wrote the Constitution, the thing they argued about the thing that almost broke the back of the Constitution, that almost made it that we didn't have one, they were fighting about representation. The big states wanted representation by population. The little states wanted every state to have an equal vote. The little states were in no way going to sign that Constitution if we only went by representation. Finally, after much discussion, they came up with something that was called later the Great Compromise. And that was in the House of Representatives, we would be represented by population. And in the Senate, every state would have the same number of votes. Every state would have 2 senators. That way, the small states felt like they were on an equal footing with the big states when they were in the Senate. Even though when they were in the House of Representatives, by population, they didn't have a whole lot to say. Okay, now go to the Electoral College. The Electoral College, there are 435 representatives. There are 100 senators. Add them together, 535. That's the number of votes in the Electoral College. Now, there's actually 3 more than that, because I believe it was the 23rd Amendment gave Washington, D.C. the same number of votes as our smallest state, because the people that lived in Washington, D.C. were always complaining that they weren't represented. So they gave them the same as 1 representative and 2 senators. There's a couple other states that only have that many. Delaware's 1, Alaska's 1. Big state, but not many people. Okay, so now we have 3 more because of Washington, D.C. So we have 538 representatives. If you need half plus 1 to win. Well, 538 is an even number. And so, wrong place. So if you divide that in half, you get 269. But that's only half. If each candidate gets 269, that's a tie. We don't have a winner. So that's why they say you need 270. 200, the number of delegates equals the number of representatives plus the number of senators. And that's 538 total. Okay. So it's not so hard to understand. You know where the number comes from now. But now you're saying to yourself, well, why go through all that? Why are we doing that? We're doing it for the same reason that in the Constitutional Convention, the little states fought so hard to get equal representation. They didn't want the big states to have the say on everything. If we get rid of the Electoral College, it would be the same as just using the representatives and not using the senators. Let me tell you what will happen. If we use the Electoral College the way it is today, 4 states, California, New York, Florida, and Texas. Those 4 states are the most populous. And those 4 states together have 26% of the votes. That's more than a quarter. What's going to happen if we get rid of the senators and we just use the representatives? Those same 4 states will have 33% of the vote. Do you want to give the big states the say-so? That's pretty close to having an election right there. They have a third just in those 4 states. They don't need much more to straighten that, to get the whole shebang, to win the whole thing. So, you don't want to get rid of the Electoral College. It isn't that hard to understand. My table's right back there. If you want to discuss this more with me, ask some more questions. If anybody has a quick question now, I'll try to answer it. But you don't want to do this. Senator Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, she's the one that's yelling about getting rid of it. Why does she want to get rid of it? Because she thinks that she can't win unless we get rid of it. She thinks if we get rid of it, the electoral college is then she has a chance to win. That's why. So, thanks for your birthday wishes, and I hope this helps you.
Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that, Carol. Yes, happy birthday again. Folks, up next is our legislative chairman, Rod Miller. I'm not totally sure what his subject is. I'm sure he told me and I just don't recall.
Our chairman don't pay attention to me anymore. I did some deep thinking today. I was just wondering. Is it still on? Anyway, how's that? My thought today is, does Popeyes fry their chicken in olive oil? Oh, yeah. Folks, if you only have a mic on, gotta put it closer on. Is that better? Okay. So, as I started to say, if you only had a mic on, how about that way? So what's happening in Washington today, you can only conclude, I guess, that all the corruption surfacing from the deep state and the deep swamp. You can only imagine if Hillary would have been elected president, we wouldn't know anything of what's going in there. I figure that swamp is so deep, if they finally drain it, they're going to find a Loch Ness monster. So, 1 month ago, 2 months ago, I believe, you unanimously adopted a resolution which included instructions for your legislative committee to carry forward to our congressmen and women a resolution on anchor babies. Now there's DACA, there's Dreamers, and we can't do much about those folks because they're already here. Our government could, but anchor babies are not only here, but they keep coming. And that's where we can force action or take names of those that won't. The 2-page resolution boils down to stating, we want a constitutional amendment that a child born in the United States must have one parent be a U.S. citizen by birth for naturalization. I ran half a dozen copies of that resolution back on the table for those that weren't here for that meeting, but you're welcome to get a copy as long as they're there. So, we adopted the resolution January 17th. I met with our Congressman, Van Mooser, on February the 20th. I reported back here the 21st that we had a meeting, and the takeaway of that meeting was basically He will analyze it, and if it's the right way to go, he will support it. He wants to check with the Supreme Court, looking into the 14th Amendment, which is what I centered the resolution around. He believes that if it did not, but no matter, we don't follow the law. He will call on members of the Judicial Committee to see where the issue stands. The 14th Amendment, the key words, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. An illegal immigrant is to serve jurisdiction from the country from where they came. We also talked that without borders, how do you know a person was born here? Where's the record? An idea worth considering. We certainly have an illegal immigration problem. That's what I took away from our meeting. So, what happened is, I called the congressman a few days ago, and I asked him, I wanted to report back to let the folks here know that we in fact expect some action. I want to read you the letter from our congressman. Dear Mr. Miller, thank you for contacting me regarding the Berks County Patriots resolution related to the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution and the issue of birthright citizenship. I appreciate your thoughtfulness to this important matter. As detailed in your resolution, several cases tried before the Supreme Court of the United States have found that the 14th Amendment guarantees citizenship to all citizen individuals born within the borders of the United States, with narrowly tailored exceptions such as the children of foreign diplomats. That Congress can change the status quo purely through the enacting of a new law. Most constitutional scholars feel that any change to birthright citizenship would require an amendment to the Constitution. As determined by our nation's founding fathers, amending the Constitution is no easy process. First, an amendment must be adopted by both the United States Senate and the House of Representatives, with 2/3 voting being required for passage. If passed by both houses, 3/4 of all states must vote to ratify the amendment. Unfortunately, any possible reforms would stop immediately by the current Democrat majority in the House. As you know, our nation's immigration problem, our system, is critically broken and must long been in need of repair. I feel that securing the border is the first step and most fundamental step in addressing our deep-seated immigration problem. Each day we are faced with a worsening security and humanitarian crisis on our southern border. Drugs, criminals, gangs, elements, illegal entry in our country are worsened, and children are exploiting victims and trafficked. This crisis forces hardworking American families to shoulder an unfair burden, threatens the safety, security of communities throughout Pennsylvania and across the country, and undermines those who are secretly and legally entering in the United States. Please note that I will continue to monitor this ongoing situation with the Patriots resolution in mind. Okay, so acknowledged certainly that we're on target, and in fact, based on my takeaway from the meeting, we had his attention. So, pointing out, of course, that the resolution did address the constitutional amendment process, and I recognize it's a very difficult program to get through both the houses and the states. But it sure beats doing nothing. What we are getting right now, basically, is nothing. Now, Donald Trump is suggesting an executive order. If he in fact gets a congressional order on the books, you recall when he took office, he scrubbed an awful lot of executive orders that Obama put in place. And I assure you, if we go no further than executive order, and we get one of these socialist open border people becoming our president, rest assured an executive order on anchor babies would disappear in a heartbeat. So, I would tell our congressman to stay the course. As far as I'm concerned, as hard as it is to accomplish, I'm pushing for a constitutional amendment. Even as difficult as it might be, if we don't succeed, I expect to be meeting our other two congresswomen that are the southern part of Berks County and get their position on the issue, because it's my intention that I'm going to make it a campaign issue if in fact it doesn't go any further than in the hopper in the judicial committee or whichever committee they finally put it in. So, I'm going off script here a little bit, and I got something to say of significant importance. We've asked people to get involved on a day-to-day basis with our committee to attempt to accomplish more than we are, but it's been tried. We're not very successful at it, and I'm not in here for that purpose, but I do want to tell you this. I've been at this quite a few years, and I happen to be one of the founders of the Patriots in 2008. I reflect back then when we had 4 busloads of Patriots going to Washington protesting Obamacare, among other things. And that was followed by a meeting here in this hall. We had Sam Rohrer and Frank Lyon as the speakers. We had 800 people in this building, and there were people outside. I was asked to go out and speak to those folks, and we can't let anybody else in. That was then. Now, we have trouble filling the bus to Harrisburg, and we're thankful that we get 200 people at a meeting. That's where we are today, and I don't know where we're going to end up, but I can only say that during all that time, I also had, I think, 3 tables at the leadership conference reserved for us. This year, we have 4 people going to the leadership conference in Harrisburg. 2 of them are wife and I. So, my point is, people are relaxing. Sam made the point, we got to get involved. We are relaxed to the point that it's thought that other people will carry the wall for us and things will get done. Folks, my wife and I will never see 80 again. If we're on a walker, and PennDOT just pulled my license, I can't drive at night because of my eyesight. I'm not complaining. We all go through the process. We all have crosses to bear, but you can just imagine that there comes a time when you got to evaluate your family situation. And how long can you carry water for the rest? Well, I spent a lifetime at this, and I hate to just walk away, but we're getting there. I go back 52 years ago. I worked as a contractor for an instrument company. The UAW moved in. The UAW went to the vice president of personnel of that company, told them I have three choices. They have three choices. They fire me, I resign, or I join the union. That's my options. I was not in service long after that. Before that, I was trying to figure out what kind of rights was I trying to protect while I was doing what I thought was my job. Well, what happened after that was enough for speech of another time. But I went through hell, you might say, with me and the union. I left the company and went elsewhere to employment. 50 years ago, I got federal attorneys to file suit on my behalf for my constitutional rights, arguing that based on the First Amendment, among others, I have the right not to belong. However, after I started the lawsuit and I decided to move on, the suit was picked up by another gentleman, and it was on the books now as the Beck Amendment. But where did we go from there? I think there's now 22 states have a right to work law where you're not compelled to belong to the union, you so choose not to. And now they have a Janus ruling in the Supreme Court that no public employee or teacher is forced to belong to a union if they so choose not to. I have all the respect for anybody that wants to be part of the union. But I have respect for those that feel they have a right not to belong. 48 years ago, I was a co-plaintiff on a suit contending that why would one build a school on a dump? I was in court for a year on that. A handful of us, although it was only two of us, did much of the speaking. As it turned out, the EPA was replacing topsoil all over Muhlenberg Township. They closed down Bernhard Stand. All of this because Exide battery acid in the air was contaminating all the properties. But Muhlenberg put dirt over the dump and built the school. The paper not too many weeks ago was a photograph of the property showing the battery casing seeping through the dirt. There was a lady filed suit some time ago. Her daughter got cancer. The argument is because of where the school was located. So, the school board president was quoted in the paper by saying, I don't know where to point the finger. Who to point the finger at? I know where, and I know who. I offered to speak to the board explaining exactly what took place so they weren't in the dark. They weren't around 48 years ago when I was in court. But, as it is, I wasn't somebody that they were particularly interested in listening to. So, "15 years ago, I was chairman of the 126 GOP committee. I gave a talk. I gave a talk how the state treasurer, Barbara Hafer, was pulling fast on us taxpayers. She was putting in a voucher to cover expenses to go on trips. On behalf of the treasurer's office, she was putting the same voucher in as an expense on her campaign. Double dipping. She was caught. I got a letter because of the county chairman of the Republican Party at that time chastising me for calling or saying what I did about his boss. Not only was the county chairman, he worked for the treasurer. I said, I have no problem having her come to my meeting, and we'll go one-on-one with what I have. I told her, after she sent me a letter, telling me if I were to besmirch her name again, she'll sue me for everything I have. Then she called me an amateur. I wrote her back. I said, I was going to charge you with the account of calling me an amateur for besmirching me. It was a scandal. I also told her I'm putting all that information out to every county chairman in the state of the Republican Party. What happened? She resigned from the Republican Party and registered Democrat. So much for that. However, the federal government filed charges. She's been having money while she was in office. Play to pay, pay to play. She was fined $50,000 and put on 3 years probation. So, what's my point? The point is this. Over 50 years ago, head-to-head with the Union. 48 years ago, head-to-head with the Gutenberg school system. 15 years ago, head-to-head with state treasurer. I don't know. I can't see that anywhere where I was wrong. I was right continually, but I guess it's, so what? Well, I can only say this. What's my point? I guess you might say I was on the sharp edge of the knife, sitting on it for quite some time. I mention these 3 items in particular because these 3 items had some effect on the nation's and the state's history. I did what I thought was right, and history seems to record I was. It's soon going to be my generation's, not my generation's concern. We won't be here. But if you have children or grandchildren, think about the country we gave them. And of course, the school's teaching, or as I say, indoctrinating the next leaders. They wouldn't even understand that capitalism has both fed and saved the world. Socialism will have to collapse the economy of this country before they get it. Folks, I've served my time. I made friends, I made enemies. I don't even know which lasts longer. But it's time to step back and have a few patriot comments. And would not, I have a few patriot commitments, and I would not let Sam down, but he's busting his tail to keep up with, keep us on target. He could use the vice chairman to light the load. He's not going to keep doing this forever. We all get tired. As of next month, I see myself as the second choice for the moderator at the April candidate night. If no one steps forward, I'll be the so-called substitute for the Alex stand-in. I'm going to be melancholy or melodramatic, but to close with a paraphrase of General MacArthur after being fired by Truman, Old Patriots never die. They just fade away. And that's my plan. Thank you.
Folks, you can sense a little frustration there. 50 years is not sure how successful that he was. Also, God did mention his eyesight. That makes things a little difficult for him reading the papers here, so please understand that. Getting back to his original message regarding anchor babies, had the 14th Amendment been interpreted as it was intended, a lot of problems that we have today would not be here. Okay, thank you, Rod. I appreciate it. Folks, up next, Sheriff Weaknecht. Yay! He is the most pro-Second Amendment sheriff in Pennsylvania. Folks, his boss is the Constitution. Remember that.
Amen.
He will do everything in his power to protect us from intrusive government. We must continue to give him our support. Folks, let's all welcome Sheriff Weaknecht.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here this evening on this first full day of spring. You can tell that outside quickly. I just want to talk to you a little bit about some common misconceptions, stuff you might not have known when it comes to your license to carry firearm. And then I want to talk to you about a bill that has been introduced in Harrisburg. And it's completely horrible. Pennsylvania is a shall-issue state. And what that means is it's very important. Because as a shall-issue state, we, the issuing agent, have to find a reason why you can't. If it wasn't like that, you would have to produce documents, you would have to tell us what your reasoning is for it, why you need it, and if they didn't like it, too bad. In Pennsylvania, you apply with us, we run you through the PICS check, which is a Pennsylvania check system. That touches all the law enforcement databases, it touches all the mental health databases, and if that comes back clean, we issue. The only exception to that is if the sheriff or the chief of police in Philadelphia would think, you know what, there's a character issue here. They could say no and deny you based on character. If they deny you based on character, you would have the right to appeal that. You can appeal that through the Court of Common Pleas and possibly even appeal it from there. But it's very important that we are a shall-issue state. Pennsylvania is also an open carry state. Open carry is exactly what I'm doing right here. You don't need a license to carry, with the exception of the city of Philadelphia, and that's in the law, to open carry. You can only open carry in Philadelphia if you have a Pennsylvania license to carry permit. Open carry, completely legal. You just have to be careful. If you don't have a license to carry permit, you're opening carry, coat falls over your weapon, it's considered concealed. You can get arrested. Any mode of transportation in Pennsylvania, from a car to a skateboard, is considered concealed in the law. You can get arrested. But besides that, completely legal. Absolutely. In Pennsylvania, you do not need to own a firearm to get a license to carry. Similar to a car, a driver's license. You don't need to own a car in order to get the license to drive the car. And same thing goes with carrying a weapon. You can carry any lawfully owned handgun with your license to carry. You don't even have to own one. You can carry your neighbors, your friends, your brothers. And that's similar to a car as well, because you can borrow your neighbor's car, you can borrow your friend's car. Same thing applies with the license to carry. License to carry permit in Pennsylvania is good for all 67 counties, including Philadelphia. We get that question a lot. People will actually say, well, what about Philadelphia? I can't carry in the city county of Philadelphia. Absolutely not true. Good for all 67 counties. It's also good in several states where we have reciprocity agreements with those states where you can carry. On the back table, with my assistant, Mr. Larry Medallia, who is Register of Wills. He has the maps back there. You can pick up the maps, and you can see exactly where they're good. Your license to carry map. On those maps, those are good for Pennsylvania residents. If you're a non-resident of Pennsylvania, but you have one of our permits, that map is different. There are a couple of states that don't allow it. But this is for anyone here in Pennsylvania who has one of our permits. I talked a little bit about transfer of handguns. We were talking about it earlier when I got here. There is no paperwork required if you're going to transfer a handgun from a parent to child, husband to wife, grandparent to grandchild, or in reverse. No requirement to fill out the license to sell information. None at all. Some of the changes that I made once I became sheriff, and those of you, we have a couple here from out of county, right? Okay. When you go back to your counties, please don't brag to your sheriff and tell them what a horrible job they're doing compared to me, because then I'll hear about it at all the conferences. But a couple of the changes I made were, I was the first sheriff in Pennsylvania to issue on the same day. Okay? So if you go to any one of our locations, you fill out the paperwork, we run you through the PICS check. Once PICS check comes back clean, we will issue your permit. That's simple. I eliminated the need for reference checks on the application. I actually sent that to our solicitor. When you fill out the state mandated form, there's a place for 2 references. You don't have to use them. Our attorney looked into that and said, you know, there's nothing listed in the law where you have to. In fact, it could be a violation of the law if we would actually call it. Because as in Pennsylvania, as a license holder, you are protected by the law. The sheriff, the issuing agent, cannot give that information out unless it's for a criminal, law enforcement, criminal investigation, something like that. So you're protected. One of the other things I did is I opened up a substation at the Reading Airport. It's open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Made it a lot easier to deal with us. When we issue the permit, honestly, it's just a couple-minute process. So it was ridiculous to have to drive into the city of Reading, pay to park, go through the metal detectors, come upstairs for a process that only takes a little bit of time. So we have the airport substation open. I was born and raised Greenwich Township, outside of Kutztown. And one of the things I noticed when I was growing up is anytime that my family had business in the city at the courthouse, they'd have to take a half day off of work. So I wanted to make sure that those people who are out in the rural parts of our county had it easier to deal with us. So my first year as sheriff, I went around and I visited a lot of municipalities outside the city, and I worked a deal out with them, and I did a really good job. Donald Trump would be very proud because I negotiated 0 rent for these places. So, now the weird thing is about this is that we had to do it by a day. So it's the 3rd Monday. And the reason we had to do that is because the municipalities have their meetings on the 3rd Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we had to kind of follow suit with that. So on the 3rd Monday, we're open in Birdsboro, Pearl Hall. The 3rd Tuesday, we're right over here in Hamburg. 3rd Wednesday, we're in Warnersville. The 3rd Thursday, we're in Kutztown. And the 3rd Friday, we're in Colbertdale Township. And we're open from 11 to 5 o'clock to make it convenient for you. Now, the first thing I said was about being the first one to issue the same day. That's the exception that we actually had to do. Today, we did almost 70 permits in Kutztown. It's impossible for them to get that 70 done. And what was happening, like the beginning of last year, was we were turning people away. So what we do now is when you come in, there's a long line, we will get your information, we will put it in the computer, we will take your picture, get your signature, and then the next day, we will have deputies and staff actually run your pitch check, print your license, and then mail it to you. So it's only a couple days later, but that way we can take care of everybody who's in line and get your permits to you timely. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the Pennsylvania State Democrats introduced House Bill 0768. You guys didn't see this. This is amazing. I truly don't think it's going to go anywhere, but let's hope. Let's call our state reps, state senators to make sure it doesn't. Last I heard, it was assigned to the Judiciary Committee, so hopefully it dies there. But this is what's happening all over, not just in Pennsylvania, every other state, and also in the country. The bill actually says that you have to submit fingerprints, 2 photos that are no older than 30 days, and go through a background check for each firearm you own. You must provide Pennsylvania State Police with your home and work address, telephone number, social security number, date of birth, age, sex, and citizenship. That's more than you need to vote. If the Pennsylvania State Police reject the person's application, they will have 10 days to appeal the decision. The owner must turn all their firearms over to PSP within 3 days after receiving notification of the rejection. If the person does not appeal the decision within 10 days, it's final. Gets worse. The gun owner cannot transfer or unregister any firearms. Anyone caught with an unregistered firearm is guilty of a crime, even if they're unaware that the firearm was not registered. Also, just holding an unregistered firearm at the range is a crime. The gun owner must keep all firearms unloaded and disassembled or bound by a trigger lock when in their home. If they don't, again, it's a crime. This rule even applies to homes with no children. The gun owner has 48 hours to update the Pennsylvania State Police if they change a job, if they change a phone number, address, or anything else on the application. If they do not, they're in violation of the law. The certificate will cost $10 per firearm, and this is the best part, it will expire in a year. The gun owner would have to start the process completely over again within 60 days before this certificate expires. This is an actual piece of legislation that was written and is in Harrisburg right now. I'm not sure if you saw the radio, I think it was last week. On the federal level, we have in the House right now a piece of legislation that would require background checks to purchase ammunition. That will probably pass. It will hopefully die in the Senate, but that will probably pass the House. So you have no idea what's out there, what they're trying to do to take away our Second Amendment right. And all we got to do is fall asleep for one election, and these bills will become law. You know, I'm standing up here. I am up for election this year. I don't know if I broke the law or not, your rule or not, but I would just like to tell you this. If you guys think that the sheriff is just another elected row officer, you're completely wrong.
Amen.
You have no idea how hard a sheriff could make it for you guys to exercise your Second Amendment right. We have sheriffs right now in the Commonwealth who have mandated that when someone comes in to apply for a license to carry, they got to bring prescriptions, get a doctor to sign off on it, We have another sheriff who is actually hiring more deputies to go out and visit the references of the people that are put on their application, to talk to them, to interview them, anything at all, and not give them their license. The sheriffs have, by law, 45 days to render a decision when you apply for your license to carry. That's either give them the permit or give them the reason why. We have some sheriffs who will wait the entire 45 days and draw the process out as long as possible. You don't have that with me. I'm here for you guys. I'm born and raised at Weaknecht Archery, Weaknecht Sporting Goods, so the sale of firearms, spending, and closing is my entire life. And I will be here for you as long as you guys keep electing the sheriff. In the back with Larry, we got bumper stickers, we got pamphlets on my Second Amendment rights. Also on the back of the pamphlets shows all of our locations where you can either get your permit or renew your permit. And I thank you very much for having me here this evening. Attorney Brew, go forward with your presentation. Thank you for coming out.
I know there's some people who would like to ask him questions. He's going to be staying, so you can personally talk to him in the back. I will tell you, I'm happy I live in Berks County. You can just bear that in mind. Okay, folks, up next. Well, first I want to tell you, Attorney Joshua Prince, who was going to be our speaker, was unexpectedly called to the D.C. Circuit Court to give oral arguments on a bump stock case. So that's why he's not here. Let's pray for his success. However, we do have Attorney Simon Grill. And if anyone knows him, you are not going to be disappointed. He's going to, well, as a matter of fact, let me give you, well, I want to thank you, first of all, for agreeing at the last minute to be our speaker. We found out, Simon gave me a call Friday afternoon or whatever it was. The board got together, trying to figure out what we're going to do. We wanted to stay within the Second Amendment theme, and your name came up a bunch of times. I called him, and within 2 minutes, he said yes. That's fantastic. So thank you very much, Simon. Okay. A little bit about Simon's bio, and I'm only going to read a little bit. Simon was a law clerk at both the Court of Common Pleas and the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. He practiced in criminal defense and has been in private legal practice for about 28 years. He teaches a law of self-defense course for the Pennsylvania Bar Association, Bar Institute, sorry, and teaches courses on Pennsylvania's castle doctrine, stand your ground, standard self-defense, and defense of others. Simon is also an NRA firearms instructor, NRA instructor for personal protection in the home and personal protection outside the home, and is a ranged safety officer. The list goes on and on. The presentation Simon is going to give is normally a 3-hour presentation. I'll just you're not going to get 3 hours. I heard this presentation from Simon, Linda and I, and others about 2 hours, and it was fantastic. Folks, let's give a big welcome to Attorney Simon Grill. 3 hours. I want to tell you, Linda, just 1 second, please. I want to tell you, if you own a firearm, you have the responsibility to yourself and to others to have the proper training. When I say proper training, I'm just not talking of how to shoot the firearm. I'm talking about what you need to know about the law and different tactics and so forth, which Simon is doing here now. Okay, thank you again, Simon. Linda has the 50-50 raffle. How much, Linda?
$280, so whoever wins gets $140.
$140, okay. Someone?
The number 862
862
505
505. Then what's the number again?
Winner.
We have a winner?
Winner.
Where? Where? No way. I talked him into coming in. helping us out. Thank you, Bruce. Folks, next month, we have candidates tonight. We expect some of the Berks County Commissioners, also the at least one of the Superior Court of candidates, and some others as well. I think it'd be something worthwhile for you to come to for your friends.
I'm going to have to tell Mike, Lucky Bruce tonight.
Also, we have about 20 gun raffle tickets in the back. If you would please help us out with that, I believe.
Lord, bless us and keep us till we meet up again. Watch over us all as we go home.
Leon, do we have any hot dogs? Go on.